You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. I'm Joyce Duriga, the editor of the Chicago Catholic, and this is where we take a closer look at the people making the news in the Chicago Catholic. So this week, this issue, we're focusing on our jubilarians in the Archdiocese. So that's the priests who are celebrating 50 years of their priesthood and 25 years of the priesthood. We also have one archbishop who's retired, who's Archbishop Keller, who's celebrating 65 years of his priesthood. So today we have one of these jubilarians with us. We're welcoming Father Dominic Grassi. He's the pastor emeritus at St. Josaphat, and he also was a longtime pastor at St. Gertrude. He's an author. He's a book lover, and he's a good friend. So welcome, Father Dom.
Good to be with you.
So we've had a lot of discussions about this. So happy anniversary.
Thank you.
So can you talk a little bit about, you've told me many stories about your classmates. You have a kind of a unique class. You've got Cardinal Gregory in it, Monsignor Vilo. Tell me about how you kind of all still stay together, the closeness of it, what it all means to you, and what does the 50th anniversary mean to you?
Well, as a class of 1973, we were caught up in all the changes of Vatican II, the changes of the happening in every diocese, the changes in the seminary system. So after 2 years at Niles College at Tui in Harlem, the seminary got together with Loyola University, and we could get our degrees from Loyola, and we no longer would just be 2 years at Niles College, it would be 4 years. But they didn't have space for us, so all of a sudden we were up at St. Mary the Lake Seminary. We were officially St. Mary the Lake campus of Niles College of Loyola University, first class to get our degrees from Loyola University. When we got up there, it was the traditional medieval seminary. No phones, no TVs, anything like that initially. No cars. Scheduled prayer time before breakfast, mass, evening prayer, great silence, things like that. And all of these things started to change. Our class was caught up in all of those changes.
Okay.
A lot of priests were leaving the priesthood that were teaching us. And so we learned to be very flexible and to follow our instincts. And that has stayed with us for the whole half century after that.
How did you now I know the answer to this, but if you can share, how did you celebrate your anniversary this year?
I celebrated my anniversary in a very blessed way. Being pastor emeritus at St. Josaphat, I was able to schedule the Mass and do it exactly how I celebrated my 25th anniversary there when I was pastor there. That's a rare thing to be able to do. And so I celebrated with some priest friends, deacons, other religious people from different denominations that I worked with, and then a very simple reception in the school hall afterwards.
So it's a nice day. So, we've had a lot of conversations, we're friends, and we've had a bunch of different conversations about this. And we talked about how there really are no retired priests. Like, people will, officially sort of kind of, but pastors don't retire. And can you speak about what that means? You have a really good understanding of that.
Yes, I found out when I first retired, and people said, "Oh, you're a retired priest." That meant I didn't function as a priest at all. So now I tell people, no, I'm a retired pastor. I am and always will be a priest. There is a difference there. I have the freedom to choose my ministries now. When you're a pastor, you do what you got to do. You're an administrator. There's so many burdens that are upon you. And so one of the things when I first retired was I said, I'm not going to make any decisions about anything for a good 3 to 6 months. And then after that, I decided the ministry is the way I wanted to use my time and my energy and kind of recreate what my priesthood would be in the twilight years. And I've been able to do that.
Can you give us an example of what that looks like?
Well, a couple of things. Being able to help out at Mass at St. Josephat and kind of be there for the beautiful new young families moving into the parish, but to be there for the older parishioners that were there when I was there. We started a young people's group when I was there called the Boomer Club. The Boomer Club is now the senior club at the parish, to work and to be with them. To select other things that I wouldn't have had the time to do, I was still a pastor there. I'm on the board of Arise Chicago. It's a wonderful organization, religious leaders of all denominations, been around for almost a half century itself, working with the unemployed, the underemployed, working for justice in so many levels, so many ways. I can give my time and my energy to that. I can do spiritual direction now, some in person. I learned how to use Zoom. I do spiritual direction by Zoom as well. It is a real blessing. And the other thing it allows me, so important, is more time for prayer and reflection. It's hard to pray when you're wondering if the boiler repairman is going to get there and it's 0 degrees out. It's really hard. Now I have a set time and a set place where I pray every single day, and it is such a gift.
That sounds like you're sort of, yeah, it's a new phase, a new discovery of your priesthood, and you're able to be a priest more. And we talk about that priests often become the accountant or the business manager and they don't have time for what they got into the vocation for, right? To pastor people.
Not only did we not have the time, we had absolutely no training, hiring, letting people go, dealing with the finances and finding the right way. So a lot of things would either slip through our fingers or we'd become so uptight about them that it took away from our calling, our vocation to preach the gospel.
Looking back at 50 years, are there any highlights? I'm sure there are a lot of highlights. Any things that stand out?
From the very first day up at the Mundelein Seminary when we were ordained and stood in line, all our family and friends, for our first blessings. My parents were the first people I blessed, and that meant so much to me. It really, really did. And there were so many things. I mean, I was able to write books and to have people read my books. And what a grace, what a blessing that I somehow was able to find the time, to make the time to do things like that, to be there with holding people's hands when they die, to give people permission to die. It's okay. I did that for my own father. And being with people in very special moments. As the years pass, relationships lengthen. And so I still play cards with 5 guys from St. Josephat Parish. And at the end of May, I'll be marrying one of the guy's daughters. She said to me, "It has to be you. You baptized me. You heard my first confession. You gave me my first communion. You're on the altar when I was confirmed. And now I get to marry her." That's 5 of the sacrament. Not bad. But those are the real gifts. The real gifts.
And that's really what it means to be a pastor. No, I mean you're journeying with us as lay people, and we're journeying with you. You know.
And the support and the love of the people of God, really wonderful. You have to be open to it. You have to be vulnerable, and not all priests are comfortable or able to do that. But that's where the grace comes, because grace never flows one way. It flows both ways.
Do you find yourself giving advice to younger priests at all, or wanting to give advice?
Yes to both. Sad to say, there's so fewer number
Right.
of them, but the two that have interned at St. Josephat, wonderful priests. One of them's a pastor already after just a few years. One from Gertrude's, I should say, one from Josephat. Yeah, well, they call me, we talk, we get together. It's important for them to know. When we were in parishes, when we were first ordained, oftentimes there were 3, 4, even 5 priests there.
Yeah.
Usually a retired guy, kind of the wisdom speaker kind of thing. Now, guys, one of the newly ordained that I work with went right from the seminary into living in an empty rectory because the parishes were merging. How frightening is that for me?
Right.
So to be able to be there and say, call me anytime, that kind of thing. It's a grace, it's a blessing. It really is to be able to do that. And some guys would not want to hear what I have to say. We have different theologies. My generation, my classmates and I, we have been called by some younger priests the failed experiment. And so, we got to find ways of bringing ourselves together better.
What does that mean? The failed you don't have to get into it too.
The Vatican II.
Oh.
That people out there that just don't say that they don't. Vatican II is a failed experiment. You're the priest of a failed experiment.
It's tough in our church sometimes, huh? With, different.
In my 50th anniversary, it was important for me to say one thing, and that was we were ordained in 1973. It was such an optimistic time. Optimistic in the church. Vatican II was just being implemented in so many ways. Optimistic in the country. We had taken part in, and oftentimes were part of the civil rights movement. And the Vietnam War, we were finally out of that mire. And we were very optimistic, certainly about our lives, certainly about our priesthood, certainly about our church. It was a time of growth and experimentation and not being afraid to try new things and joining together with our brothers and sisters of other faiths. And there's a hymn I love, and in the hymn there are the words, "Open the doors." And that's what we were doing. Unfortunately, as the years went on, there are those wanting to close the doors, and we need to keep those doors open. We had a motto at St. Joseph, church to come home to. We had a motto at St. Gertrude's, all are welcome. That's what our church has to be. We brought that optimism, that enthusiasm to our ministries, and that brought us as classmates closer together.
Wonderful. Okay, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, Father Dom, let's talk about, our love of stories and storytelling and how that relates to homiletics, and we'll be right back.
Core to Catholic Charity's founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
I am a seminarian. The church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship programs provide a free opportunity for young adults to spend time with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youth aged 9 through 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports every relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that can help young adults build confidence and enjoy fun activities with their peers too. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7970 in Cook County and 847-782-4224 in Lake County. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce DeRiga, and I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic. And before we get back to our guests, I want to just give a quick plug to the newspaper. You can check us out at chicagocatholic.com. You can subscribe to us for $30 a year. We come out about every 2 weeks, and that $30 helps support our ministry. You can also sign up for our free e-newsletter that I send out about 3 times a week, and you can follow us on social media. You can find out what the Cardinal's doing, the latest news from the Vatican and the Pope, and my favorite stuff is of what's going on around the Archdiocese and the way that God's working in the lives of our people. So in this issue, this latest issue, we're featuring our jubilarians, our archdiocesan priests who are celebrating 50 years of priesthood and 25 years of priesthood. And today joining me is Father Dominic Grassi. He's one of our 50th jubilarians, and he's pastor emeritus of St. Josephat. And he also served for a long time at St. Gertrude, and he's an author and a great storyteller. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see behind Father Dom is a big bookcase full of books. And it's my kind of bookcase because there's books shoved every available space. There's books. It's not like this uniform. Mine isn't even organized like by, or this, just like you, I have several. But so there's always been an element of storytelling in your ministry. And can you talk about that, the importance of that, the importance of telling stories and homilies, anything along those lines?
Thank you for asking that, because stories are very dear to my heart. When I was a deacon, I was assigned to St. Sabina Parish, and I noticed when I started to preach, people got very interested in reading their bulletin, not interested in what I was saying. All I was doing was regurgitating the theology I learned at London. I didn't know homiletics, and I didn't know what preaching was all about. And so I started looking around, and there were some books. Something had just started, a theology of story. Authors like Jack Shea using stories to touch people's lives. With the whole idea, there's the story with the capital S, the story of our faith, the history of our faith, and the liturgy of our faith, everybody's writings, the scriptures, and so much. And there is your story with a small s, my story with a small s. If my story can touch your story, in a way that is really meaningful. And together, maybe it'll help us all understand the story much better. So I started telling stories, and they came easy. I think that's in my DNA. The little homes that my ancestors lived in, with a fire in the middle of the floor and the smoke going off the ceiling. They gathered around and shared their stories. And the more I told my stories, the more that came to me. And when I was at St. Josephat, the editor of Loyola Press, his wife became parishioners, and all of a sudden I started writing books of stories. And one day I was introduced as a storyteller. That sounded kind of presumptuous to me, but eventually I came to say, yeah, that's what I am. That's what I do. I love telling a story. I can tell you the same story 3 years apart, but it's not the same story. I'm different. You're different. My words are different. That's the beauty of stories. They're always new. They're always different. They're always full of truth and mystery.
Well, and obviously that's near and dear to my heart because that's what we do. We tell stories. And I always get a little choked up about it, that I feel like everybody has a story. And if you're willing to listen and like really listen, they'll tell you their story. And that's a great
Yes,
gift.
I've given a few missions for priests, and we talk about homilies. I said, it means nothing when somebody says, "Good homily, Father." It just means nothing. One Sunday, I did not preach. It was Mission Sunday, and a wonderful missionary sister preached. And after Mass, somebody came up and said, "Father, you preached a great homily." To which I replied, "Would you like my veil?" That's just what people say. But people come up to me and say, my father used to have a fig tree planted next to the side of the house, just like your father. We've connected the depth of the story. The roots start coming out. And that's what is so meaningful and so beautiful. So it's hard to shut me up when people start asking me questions, because the stories just keep coming.
Well, and I mean, that's what Jesus did, right? That's the parables. That's what, and we know the parables. We might not know all the words, but we can tell you the framework of the story. So, stories work.
And not only that, we'll read the parable that we've read maybe 1,000 times or heard 1,000 times. Something new, something mysterious, something challenging pops out of it, which is really great. You can't do that reading academic, scholastic theology. There's a place for that. But that's not what I'm
Right.
supposed to do.
No, I agree. Now, you were mentioning that your book on the Mass has had a kind of resurgence thanks to the Eucharistic revival. No?
Yes. When I taught at Quigley Seminary South, I worked with a wonderful man, Joe Paprocki, who is on the staff at Loyola Press, and he's a great writer. He's written some great books. And so when it came time to write a book about the Mass, I said, it can't be just me. It's got to be seen from both sides of the altar. And Joe agreed. So every chapter we worked on together, his point of view is being in the pew, what is going on at this part of the Mass, being behind the altar, what's going on. And it was just a great adventure to write the book with him. And now, because of the important interest we have on the Eucharist in the revival, the book has got a new life, and it's parishes are buying it for everybody in the parish or the different committees, and it's been translated into Spanish and Polish and Chinese. And I go, wow,
Wow.
how blessed am I?
Wow. So looking back at the 50 years of priesthood, how have you changed? Or have you changed? I mean, I'm sure you've changed, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I have been the stuff of my priesthood and the stuff of my life has humbled me, has helped me to realize my own weaknesses, my own sinfulness, my own ego-driven times, taught me to be kinder. You know, that's what I want on my tombstone. Is kind.
Mm.
I wouldn't have said that a lot of years ago. The yeah, you know, illnesses, things like that. All of these change your life, but you need to have the time to reflect on them. And retirement has given me that incredible gift of time to reflect on my whole life, even before I was ordained. I'll surprise my brothers. I'll sit down with them and say, "You remember this about Dad? Or you know, remember when Mom did this?" And they say, "How do you come up with it?" I said, "I have the freedom of time now to do that. It's a grace."
Yeah, I'm jealous of your park bench by your building, your bay window, and that time. And really, I think, it's something we all need more of, right? Because we're also,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and there's a difference. I I'm not telling priests, hide in a rectory,
right.
hide in the sacristy, hide in your room. You've got to be with your people, and you've got to listen to them, and you've got to let them nourish you. But the only way you're going to nourish them is if you take all of this and put it together and reflect on it. And we have opportunities to do it. I remember locking up the church one day at St. Joseph after a busy weekend of 3 weddings, a couple baptisms, May crowning, and I locked the church and I was walking through it. I could still feel the energy there.
Mm.
I just sat and let the energy, excuse me, absorb me. We need to take the time to do that through the important.
Amen. Sorry to the viewers and the listeners. Father sits out on a bench on the grounds of his building and will read and enjoy the sunshine. And he also has a bay window that he sits in and enjoys prayer time and all of that. So we're running out of time. We got about, I think, 2 minutes left, 1.5 minutes if I don't stop talking. Do you have one piece of advice for anybody who's reaching a 50th anniversary, turning 50? That'll be me next year.
Well, I was asked to give a 1-sentence advice to 2 seminarians interning the parish. And I said, "Let the good and wonderful people of God teach you what it means to be a priest." I am still learning what it means to be a priest through the lives of so many people that I've been blessed to become close to, who have touched my life and touched theirs.
Wonderfully said. So as we close, just a reminder, check us out at ChicagoCatholic.com and subscribe to support our ministry. And Father Dom, it was a joy to have you on today, and happy anniversary, and may the blessings continue.
Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you. Till next time, everyone, have a gentle and joy-filled day. Bye-bye.